Your open support for the mages likely earned you enemies.
Oh, I already know that.
Our agents will monitor the situation. If the most opposed can be identified, we may still turn this to our advantage.
Just don't kill people, okay?
You're not planning assassinations, are you?
I was planning to unleash Josephine on them. She kills with kindness.
I mean...
Regardless, I applaud you for the courage to stand up for the mages.
Oh, God.
In Redcliffe, you sacrificed yourself so that I could return here.
Of course I did. One small life in exchange for a second chance at history. I always loved a bargain.
It's still noble.
It was still a sacrifice, and still noble.
And I would do it again.
Any updates?
Anything I should know?
Altegan has returned to Redcliffe Castle and resumed his duties as
Yay!
Lord. The people are returning, slowly but surely. Unfortunately, our show of support for the mages has angered many.
Oh well.
I'll leave you to your work.
Oh well. Dorian. Ooh. I could let's level up potions. Then I'll go talk to Dorian. Can I? Ooh, yes I can. Boom. Tonics. Nope. Alright, we did some upgrading.
Sacred told me that he can't let the herbs go for anything less than 8.
Fine. We'll gather our own. Tell Segret he better hope he doesn't need a salve anytime soon. You're back. And in one piece.
You should have a potion helper. How are things?
How are your people holding up?
No one's declared me a heretic recently, so I won't complain.
Okay.
Farewell.
Alright.
So we have gained the mages. Excellent. They should be able to seal the breach. You are certain you experienced time travel. Could it have been an illusion? A trick of the Fade?
No, I don't think so.
I know what I saw. It was real.
What an amazing gift. It is vital the Inquisition succeed to avoid the future you witnessed.
Sometimes you have conversations that, like, your companions were at a specific place. Like this one, I can tell him that I saw him there even though he wasn't there. And then sometimes you have party banter that, like, one of your companions may say, oh, you didn't get to go. The game kind of flip-flops on whether or not your companions are all supposed to be there together, even if you can't bring them all. And the only companions who were there are the ones that you brought. But it was pretty terrifying.
So many were dead. More had been corrupted. Knowing what will happen if we fail.
I suggest we not fail. Speaking of which, you should ready yourself.
For?
This Elder One. You have now interfered with his plans twice. Once at the Temple of Sacred Ashes, and now again at Redcliffe. A being who aspires to godhood is unlikely to ignore such an affront.
Okay. I got not a whole lot of disapproval.
What can I do for you?
But I still got some.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Alright, let's talk to Dorian.
The Inquisition supports free mages. What's next? Elves running Hallam-Sharal?
Yes!
Cows milking farmers?
Think of something. He's just being sassy.
Give me time. I'm sure I'll surprise you.
I suspect that's untrue. Unless you strip yourself naked and allow the Chantry to flog you into repentance.
It's not gonna happen.
Now, that would surprise me. I do wonder if you've considered what this support of yours will do. For mages in general, I mean. The Inquisition is seen as an authority. You've given southern mages license to, well, be like mages back home.
So to overrule us next. I mean, I doubt they'll go that far.
I don't believe that.
It's true. The conditions here are different. Southern mages aren't used to ruling. Thing is, the Imperium was once just like the South. Templars, proper circles, all that rot. Then it changed. By inches. Not that this is reason to oppress us. Still, my homeland should be a cautionary tale, not a source of inspiration.
I mean, that's how I take it. Have you seen Alexis?
Have you gone to see Alexius yet? He's in the cells.
Not yet, no. I saw him before they locked him up. He looked despondent, broken. Not the man I remember, nor the one I want to. I suppose the Inquisition will judge him eventually. I wonder if there's any chance they'll show him mercy. He hardly deserves it, but for Felix's sake. I can't help hoping there's something left of the man I once knew.
So even though she says he's in the cells, you can go down in the cells, he's not there. Which makes me a little sad. Also...
So I take it you're... Dalish? Is that the correct word here?
It is. Also, Dragon Age went a little overboard with the shiny, I think. I appreciate that they're trying to, like, make metal look like metal, but it's a bit much. And you'll notice that in more than one place. Anyway, it's correct everywhere?
Dalish is the correct word everywhere.
We don't have Dalish clans coming northward, for obvious reasons.
Yep.
So I've never met one of your people before, although I've heard about them. A little. I hope this won't be an issue between us. I am here to help you deal with the Venatori, after all.
Well, I appreciate your help.
Don't give me cause to make it an issue.
As you wish.
I mean, I didn't mean that as a threat. I was just saying. Tell me about yourself.
It occurs to me that I barely know anything about you.
Beyond my being a mage from Tevinter, you mean?
Beyond that, yes.
And beyond my being so charming and well-dressed, which is obvious to anyone.
Your outfit is interesting. Don't push your luck. I mean...
You certainly think highly of yourself.
It's true. I could be more modest, but I'd be lying. Now, what was I talking about? Ah, yes, me. I am the scion of House Parvis, a product of generations of careful breeding and the repository of its hopes and dreams. Naturally, I despised it all. The lies, the scheming, the illusions of supremacy. That's Tevinter in a nutshell, isn't it? Needless to say, my family was not happy with my choices.
Your family's angry with you?
Why would your family be upset with your choices?
Because I rejected their idyllic plan. If they had their way, by now I'd be married to some unlucky girl from a powerful family. We'd live in luxurious despair, despising each other as I waited to take my father's place in the magisterium. I declined the honor, and thus it's best I'm far from home. Less of an embarrassment that way, you see.
What do you mean by careful breeding?
What did you mean by generations of careful breeding?
The great families of Tevinter don't have children. They refine traits, weed out the undesirable, and promote the rest. My mother was chosen for my father because magic runs strongly in her blood. Never mind that they loathed each other. They wanted a son who could become Hakkon to make House Parvis the envy of the Imperium. They got me. A cautionary tale that you should be careful what you wish for.
You don't like Tevinter?
I'm getting the impression that you don't care much for your homeland.
On the contrary, I care for my homeland a great deal. There's so much potential. Sadly, we squander it. We refuse to acknowledge how far we've fallen because pretending is easier. We pretend the Qunari can be beaten. We pretend that we're superior to everyone, even our own people. Not everyone feels that way. I don't. Sadly, we're the minority.
Why do you care?
It just seems... So much of what you say about the Imperium is entirely negative.
It might sound that way. For all our faults, my people have many virtues. We are laden with history and culture. Tevinter is where Thedas truly began, remember? We treasure our past and preserve it. You can walk down a side street and find nothing built during the modern ages. And despite appearances, we care. Deeply. About everything. We have no reserve, not in war and not in love. If I truly believed my homeland was beyond all hope, I wouldn't miss it so much.
Why not go back?
Why remain with the Inquisition? Why not go back to Tevinter?
I'm not exactly welcome back home. Not that it matters, I'm quite accustomed to being a pariah. It adds to my charm. I can do more for Tevinter here. If the Venatori succeed, it'll set my homeland back 1,000 years. I'm sure some magisters would disagree, but that's why we kill them.
I think I've heard enough.
That's too bad. I never tire of talking about myself.
Aren't all these buckles annoying to strap down? Like, they don't seem to have a purpose, Dorian. Maybe they don't come undone. Tell me about the Imperium.
I'd like to ask you about Tevinter.
Ah, yes. Everyone outside the Imperium always seems quite fascinated by it. Probably why they come up with so many ridiculous tales. Flying cows over Minrathous. That's madness. All right, that one's actually true, but the cows didn't have wings.
What?
I digress. Anything in particular you wanted to know?
Do mages truly rule there?
It seems strange that an entire empire would be ruled by mages.
Strange? Why are you less qualified to rule than some tart with a fancy crown? Actually, the fiction in the Imperium is that mages don't rule. The magisterium rules. That magisters are all mages is considered a convenient technicality.
Explain the magisterium?
What is the magisterium, exactly?
The upper house of the Imperial Senate, and the only part worth having a seat on. Those seats are split among the circles of magi, the chantry, and the major families. All mages now. It's odd that outside the Imperium, you use magister like it applies to every Tevinter mage.
So what are you then?
If you're not a magister, then what are you called? No special title?
I'm an altus, which is almost as good as a magister, depending on who you ask.
And an altist would be...
I've never heard of an altus.
Upper class. Those families who trace descent from the Dreamers, the first prophets of the old gods. If you're a mage and you're not altus, then you're later, lower class. If you're not a mage at all, you're soperati. That's everyone else. We do love our fancy words.
What about the Archon?
I thought the Hakkon ruled over the Imperium.
Well, yes. Technically, he can overrule laws passed by the Magisterium, but that never happens. Even so, he gets to appoint new magisters, which means all the families vie madly for his favor. Thus, the Archon gets invited to all the parties. The truest path to Tevinter influence, let me tell you.
So mages do rule.
If it's a fiction, that means mages do rule then.
Yes and no. Let me put it this way. Mages do rule, but not all mages are equal. If you're not from the right family, chances are you don't rule anything. Maybe you're even a slave. The idea that anyone could be a mage, however, keeps the masses placated.
How so?
Can anyone be a mage?
Technically, the potential runs mostly in bloodlines, but it's been known to happen. More importantly, commoners believe it can. Tevinter legend is chock full of mage heroes from humble origins. So they hold out hope. Someday my son or my son's son will be a mage. Someday. Poor sods don't realize that means he'll be a quaestor at the arse end of the 100 Pillars, at best.
Is that bad?
Being a quaestor isn't a good thing.
I imagine the average non-mage likes to think so. Counting numbers and shuffling papers all day is better than many occupations after all. If you're a second-class citizen among a pack of piranha, however, your outlook changes.
Well, let's talk about something else.
Let me ask you something else.
Of course.
The Imperium has a chantry?
There's an Imperial chantry, isn't there? With its own divine.
You people aren't supposed to talk about the Black Divine, are you? If you mention him outside the Imperium, people make that face, like you're urinating in public. But yes, we do have the chantry, or a version of it. Night and day comparing it to yours.
How's it different?
Is the Imperial chantry so different from ours?
Not in theory. The main difference is in the whole magic is meant to serve man, not rule over him business. Back home, ruling the unwashed masses is serving them, for the good of the Imperium. Perhaps it started with good intentions, but these days it's academic. The circles are in command.
You have circles.
There are circles of magi in the Imperium.
We don't have dismal little mage prisons, if that's what you mean. They're academies, prestigious ones. We have Templars as well, but they don't cancel spells or whatever your Templars do. They're soldiers.
They don't use lyrium.
Ha! As if there'd be any left for them. They watch for abuse of magic, yes, but only those who are weak or who fall out of favor get dealt with. Mostly they enforce their magisterium's edicts. The chantry smiles and nods from the sidelines.
What about the Black Divine?
Do you really call him the Black Divine?
We don't call him that, oh no. In the Imperium, he's the true divine. The woman sitting on the Sunburst throne is some backwater pretender. It all stems from a disagreement over Andraste. Marvelous, isn't it?
Disagreement?
Why would they disagree over Andraste?
It's not my field of expertise, but the Imperium believes Andraste was a mortal woman, a mage. Down south, they say, no, she's the bride of the Maker, ascended to his side, divine provenance, a blah blah blah. We feel better believing Andraste was one of us. Makes executing her less damning, you see. So we elected a man as divine, the South declared war, and we've been feuding cousins ever since.
Your divine is male?
So, the Imperial divine is always a man?
All the better to distinguish him from that other one, yes. Don't think there aren't a number of female magisters who bristle at that. Why can't they be divine after all? Same reason you never see a man on the Sunburst throne. Because that's how it's always been done. Excellent reasoning.
Are you religious?
Do you consider yourself Andrastian?
The big question. It might surprise you that I do consider myself Andrastian. I simply do not believe in the chantry. It is a relic, whether back home or here in the south. Something from a bygone age desperately clinging to relevance. It's not an opinion that makes me popular.
I can understand that.
I share your opinion, actually.
That's not surprising, considering what the Inquisition represents. I'll say this. I may not believe in the chantry, but I believe in you.
In me?
That the Maker sent you, whether through Andraste or fate. Cassandra is not wrong. You are what we needed most at the moment we needed it. That's what they will say in ages to come.
I'm surprised you think that.
You don't seem like the religious sort, to be honest.
If you define religious as sitting in a chantry and listening to a blithering hen tell you how to live, then no. If you define it as believing in the possibility that something larger than yourself exists, then yes, by all means. The world is bigger than I, even bigger than you. It laughs at all the things we think we know. The Maker doesn't need me to believe, but I do. The thought of no one at all watching out for us is too frightening.
Let me ask you something else.
So many questions.
Could Tevinter be an ally?
I'm wondering if the Imperium would be a useful ally.
I'd think you'd be more concerned whether or not they'd support the Venatori.
Yeah.
They won't. At least, not officially. They'll disavow all knowledge of dangerous cultists. Secretly, many Magisters will rejoice at the idea. And if the South falls to chaos in the meantime, all the better.
Is that smart of them?
It would be in the Imperium's best interest to help. Surely it could use allies.
I think the Imperium gave up on the idea of allies a long time ago. We've been fighting the Qunari for what, 200 years off and on? It's a point of pride that we go it alone. They'll sneer at the South behind their silk handkerchiefs and say, "You've had it easy for far too long." Let's not forget that the Inquisition seems to be an arm of the Orlesian Chantry. Anathema so far as they're concerned.
We're not.
We're not part of the Chantry. The Chantry opposed the Inquisition's formation.
You think that matters? Don't be silly. The Herald of Andraste. Your very title smacks of the Southern Chantry. You may as well be a heathen. I think they're far more frightened what you'll do if you succeed.
Is blood magic common?
Just how often is blood magic used there?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
That's what any Magister would tell you. They'd be convincingly offended by the notion too. Of course, what people call blood magic here, and what we consider blood magic, are two different things.
What do you mean?
What's considered actual blood magic in Tevinter?
Blood magic isn't inherently dangerous. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, what's the harm? The problem is that what's permitted only gets you so much power. And what if you need more? You always need more. That's where we get into sacrifices and demon summoning. None of that is done. Not officially. Behind closed doors, it's a different story. Real blood magic can give you an edge, a leg up against your opponents. It's safe to assume that any mage of rank does it. The rest are quietly shut out of power, to put it bluntly.
No Templar intervention?
You'd think the Templars would object.
I imagine they did, long ago. Once, their investigations might have been sincere. Then their balls were cut off. Too inconvenient. Nowadays, only the friendless are accused. Most of them probably innocent.
No one disagrees.
There must be some mages who oppose this.
Of course. I do. And I'm not entirely alone. Occasionally, there'll be a Magister who makes noise, and then the reform talk begins. All very patriotic. Meanwhile, that Magister will be quietly shunned. Chances are, surprise, it's learned he was a Maleficar all along. Most learn to keep quiet. Me? I enjoy the allure of pariahhood.
And what about slavery?
Anyone who talks about the Imperium mentions slavery. It's the center of the slave trade.
Ah. That is true.
And did you have slaves?
Not personally, but my family does and treats them well. Honestly, I never thought much about it until I came south. Back home, it's how it is. Slaves are everywhere. You don't question it. I'm not even certain many slaves do.
Are you saying they like it?
You think slaves like it that way? Don't be ridiculous.
I didn't say they like it. It's all most of them know. In the south, you have alienages, slums, both human and elven. The desperate have no way out. Back home, a poor man can sell himself. As a slave, he could have a position of respect, comfort, and could even support a family. Some slaves are treated poorly, it's true. But do you honestly think inescapable poverty is better?
I think they're about the same.
Is that what you call it? treated poorly?
Abuse heaped upon those without power isn't limited to Tevinter, my friend. I don't know what it's like to be a slave, true. I never thought about it until I saw how different it was here. But I suspect you don't know either.
I know what it's like to be oppressed.
Nor should you believe that every tale of Tevinter excess is the norm.
That's all I wanted to know.
Fair enough.
I should go.
As you wish.
Oh, wow. We got some codices. Tevinter Society, the Magisterium.
The Inquisitor's work is never done, I see.
I just want to make sure I have nothing more to talk
I
to you
should go.
about.
Naturally.
Okay, let's check these. There are those who would tell you the chantry is the same everywhere as it is here, that the divine in Valrio reigns supreme in the eyes of the Maker, and that this fact is unquestioned throughout Thedas. Do not believe it. The Maker's second commandment, magic must serve man, not rule over him, never held the same meaning within the ancient Tevinter Imperium as it did elsewhere. The chantry there interpreted the rule as meaning that mages should never control the minds of other men, and that otherwise their magic should benefit the rulers of men as much as possible. When the clerics of Tevinter altered the chantry of light to reflect this interpretation of the commandment, the divine in Valrio ordered the clerics to revert to the original chant. They refused, claiming corruption within Valrio, an argument that grew until in 487 Towers, the chantry in Tevinter elected its own legitimate and uncorrupted divine, Valhall, who was not only male but also happened to be one of the most prominent members of the Tevinter circle of magi. This black divine was reviled outside Tevinter, his existence an offense to the chantry in Valrio. After 4 exalted marches to dislodge these rebels, all the chantry in Valrio accomplished was to cement the separation. While most aspects of the Imperial Chantry's teachings are the same, prohibitions against magic have been weakened, and male priests have become more prevalent. The Circle of Magi today rules Tevinter directly, and since Archon Normian was elected in 734 Storm directly from the ranks of the enchanters to great applause from the public, he dispensed with the old rules forbidding mages from taking part in politics. And within an age, the true rulers within the various imperial houses, the mages, took their places openly within the government. The imperial divine is now always drawn from the ranks of the first enchanters and operates as divine and grand enchanter both. This is utter hearsay to any member of the chantry outside Tevinter. A return to the days of the magisterium which brought the blights down upon us, but it exists, and even though we have left the Tevinter Imperium to the mercies of the dread Canary, still they have endured. Further confrontation between the Black Divine and our so-called White Divine is inevitable. There is a mistaken impression outside the Tevinter Imperium that a magister is simply a mage, and the mere act of being a mage is all that is required to be among the ruling class. A misperception, aided, no doubt, by some Tevinter mages claiming the title outside their homeland to take advantage of its reputation. In truth, being a magister requires one hold a seat in the magisterium, the upper house of the Imperial Senate. This is the body that makes laws, and which chooses the new Archon if there is no approved heir. The Senate's lower house, the Publicaneum, consists of elected officials, but it has no true power and is considered a bureaucratic body. Magisters, meanwhile, come from the ranks of the Circle of Magi in the Imperial Chantry, but most hold their seats by virtue of an Archon having granted it to their family long ago. It is not technically required for a magister to be a mage. Indeed, after the transfiguration that saw the old gods abandoned and Andrastianism embraced, most were not. Since the Tower's age, however, non-mages in the magisterium have slowly been weeded out. A true magister is thus a figure of real power in Tevinter. All other mages serve at their pleasure, and any mage not of proper lineage has no influence outside of that which personal wealth and talent provide. Oh, I missed one. To those outside the Tevinter Imperium, it is easy to imagine a society filled with mages and elven slaves and little else. In truth, there are 3 different Tevinters, each of them a world completely separated from the others. There are the mages, the land's nobility, completely obsessed with competing for supremacy with each other, almost to the exclusion of paying any heed to the nation's enemies, such as the Canari. The well-bred Altus sneer at the Latins, who in turn sneer at the Praetari. They vie for dominance in the magisterium, where factions shift and flow on a daily basis with deadly consequences, requiring every family to put on a veneer of perfect citizenship or face scandal and censor. Then there are the so-called Soperati, the sleepers. These are the non-magical citizens who vastly outnumber the mages, yet are beholden to their whims. Many are resentful of the status, plotting in secret, even as they secretly hope their children will possess magical talent, an enticing lure, since the talent could conceivably show up in anyone, even a slave. It would be easy to forget that Tevinter possesses a massive class of publicans, the civil servants and leaders of the legionnaires. It has an enormous merchant class, enough teeming poor to drown any other nation in Thedas, and the shadowy thieves called Praesumptor, who are practically treated with respect. And then there are the slaves. One would think they at least see each other as equals, but it is not so. The divide between the freed liberati, those who act as personal servants to magisters, those who work on farms and factories, and the servus publicus, who do all the tasks proper citizens will not, is all but insurmountable. But perhaps the illumination of those who own them, imperial slaves, will connive and scheme to try anyhow. Outsiders might see it as futile, but to Tevinter citizens, their nation's social classes are the most mutable and rewarding of merit in all of Thedas. So a little more fleshing out of what Dorian said.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Man.
Well, that's mages all over. So many robes, I bet all of Ferelden lost their curtains. I'll just be the other side of Haven, just in case.
You expected something else? We needed this.
We needed? No, pretty sure that question was never passed my way. I mean, yay, freedom. Great for them. Over there, away from me.
What do you think about the people who have gathered?
Again, with your people. Right, which ones?
What about Dorian?
He's fun. Could lose a bit more to Vinter.
Vivian?
What's your opinion of Vivienne?
She's a bitch, but she knows. She better.
Iron Bull?
Thoughts on Iron Bull?
He makes me wonder about things. I mean, what do their women look like? Woof.
Blackwall?
Any thoughts about Warden Blackwall?
He's too good, right? I'd like to see him out of that uniform. Not like that.
I know what you mean. Apparently I'm done.
We'll talk later.
Good, right? I'll be here. Ready for waiting.
Apparently...
Is the Inquisition what you thought it would be?
Well, you're dragging people together. Suppose that's something. You're gonna need more trebuchets if you're going after the sky. Or, you know, ladders.
I'll be back if I need you.
Go on.
Derek.
The Mage Rebellion joins the Inquisition. I've got to admit that's a twist I didn't see coming.
Really?
One thing you saw in the future worries me. I mean, it was all bad. But Red Lyrium and Ferelden, infecting people and growing out of them, that's bad. Finding more of it really punches a hole in my Red Lyrium at the temple was a coincidence theory.
How fast does it spread?
How long does it take for Red Lyrium to grow? How fast can it spread?
It took years to infect people in Kirkwall, but no one there was actually ingesting the stuff. This Elder One managed to take the worst thing I can think of and make it worse. That's an accomplishment.
I'd like to keep hoping it's a coincidence, if you don't mind. I need to be able to sleep at night.
Honestly, I think I'll give up sleeping for the foreseeable future. I've got people trying to find out where the red stuff came from. I think maybe we should make that a priority. But that's enough doom and gloom. You just won a big victory for the Inquisition. What are you going to do to celebrate?
Oh god. Anything but celebrate, I'm sure.
After what just happened, I hardly feel like we won anything.
We're just getting started. You can't win a war in a day. Things should be calm around here for at least the next hour. Take a moment to enjoy it. If the world's about to end, I'm sure the Seeker will let us know.
It's good advice, Varric. I appreciate it.
Need something?
Questions about Hawk. We already asked him all of this.
I want to know more about...
I'll tell you what I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really my favorite subject.
Okay. Secret. What else am I looking for? I'll go that way in a minute. Cool.
So, that Tevinter guy sent you into the future?
Protect you. Weird, right?
Every time I think I understand magic, the rules change.
And you're a mage, so that's saying something. Anyway, I hope our new friends have what it takes to close the breach. Damn thing gives me a headache just looking at it.
Well, you should be able to, you know, just turn the other direction.
Now that we've got better mounts, if you like, I can show you a few tricks to get more out of them.
Oh, can you now?
Fine, forget I said anything. You Fereldans. Growling at everyone but your dogs.
No, go ahead. Who knows? Maybe some fancy noble riding might save my life if a scouting ride goes wrong. And maybe I'll show you a few tricks as well. You know, Arthur, you actually are a good rider on your that fox.
Thank you. Kindly.
You still belong up with the nobles, but I'm glad you stayed down here in the dirt with us peasants.
I had the most selfish of reasons for it, honestly.
Oh.
The Inquisition scouts are getting all of Master Dennett's best horses.
Art.